Yes, sir.
Just, I mean, to kick things off, if you can do me and all of us a great favor of answering the question of who is LeBron, obviously to you.
Who is LeBron James? This whole group here is like the LeBron scholars. This row right here, the people. I mean, honestly, and I say this, I mean, I've talked to a lot of players. I've never talked to LeBron James. I think I stand by really what's in the film. I mean, I think he's somebody who is still trying to figure out who he is. I mean, one thing I do know a lot about is, and that I've studied a lot about, is the professionalization of youth sports. And I've seen young athletes who have some talent immediately get very isolated from their community, immediately get very isolated in terms of how they're raised, in terms of the ideas they're exposed to. And so it becomes almost like if you say you go to the gym every day and all you do are curls with your right arm, it's like you end up being misdeveloped in so many ways, where you have this part of you that's just insanely powerful, and then the rest of you is distorted. And I've seen that with athletes who have barely Division I college talent. And I have a friend who was like a reserve for the University of Maryland basketball team, who describes that process for him growing up, of being isolated in such a way. And so then you think about LeBron James, who's probably the greatest basketball talent ever. I mean, let's see if Blake Griffin gets a jump shot, but at this point we'll say best basketball talent ever in terms of his prodigious skill. And then think for a second about how isolated he must have been, because there would have been people who would have seen that at the earliest possible age. And so I think that creates a situation where he's still trying to figure out who he is. I don't think he's completely in the camp of, I'm going to be like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods and be a brand and nothing else. And he's certainly nowhere close to the Muhammad Ali, hey, I have this amazing platform, I think I should use it to do something about the world. And I think there's a way in which he's feeling his way through it. And I think what's so unhelpful about the sports world today is that it doesn't provide space for athletes to even figure that stuff out. I mean, you saw that over the summer when he was asked by Soledad O'Brien on CNN, do you think racism played a role in some of the reaction in Cleveland? And he said something more than Michael Jordan would ever say, which is, yeah, I do think racism played a role. And of course, that's far less than what Muhammad Ali would have said. He would have said, like, let's take a torch and put it to Cleveland and burn those crackers to the ground. You know, he would have, who knows what Muhammad Ali would have said. But all he said was, yeah, I think racism played a role. And instead of people taking a step back from that and giving him the space to have that thought, the crackdown. And I think that that's part of what the point we're trying to make in this film is, that it's not that there's no politics in sports and then there are political athletes. It's that there is a normalization of politics in sports that already exists. And when people transgress from that, and one way you do that is by talking about issues like racism, that's when the hammer really comes down. The keepers of normality, as that wasn't even my phrase, I think that Journey Earp owns that phrase, but the keepers of normality make sure that you're not allowed to speak about those things. I think LeBron's story is yet to be written, and honestly, it depends a great deal, as the film I think does a great job of showing this. It depends on what happens off the field, in the broader culture. It's like, why do we know that Charles Woodson is a heroic person who will speak out for labor rights? Because 70,000 people are marching in front of the State House in Wisconsin. If they're not marching, we don't have that insight on who Charles Woodson is. So it's about what happens off the field for us to be able to understand how people can develop on the field.